The King's Avatar, Chapter 1380 Repeat Effect, Audio Source, wushaworldaudiobook.com. Chapter 1380, Repeat Effect. Translator, Nomyami. Editor, Nomyami. He couldn't pursue, but he couldn't not pursue either. This wasn't the first time Yang Kong had been met with an awkward situation like this in a match where no matter what he chose, it wouldn't help. Was there a third option? Yang Kong didn't know. Perhaps there was, but he couldn't see it, so he could only pick one of two actions. Even if neither option was optimal, he had to make a choice. For every moment he hesitated, the worse the situation became. After her. In the end, Yang Kong decided to pursue Dancing Rain. Letting Happy take hold of the high ground would throw them into even worse straits. This was why when they saw the map, 301 degrees players all felt their hearts stutter, and they ended up sending Yang Kong forth to perform reconnaissance. Yang Kong noticed that their mistakes started from here, from letting their minds focus on the high ground of this map. As for him realizing that he wouldn't be able to trap Sumo Chung, this was a very minor mistake. Even if he didn't make this mistake, he'd had turned back to try and close in on Dancing Rain anyways, and then Sumo Chung would have Dancing Rain kite him, which might lead him in circles using the tower anyways. They hadn't been prepared enough from the beginning and hadn't considered that Happy could use this high ground to trick them and counter-trap them. What would they do if they were met with such a situation again? This thought flashed through Yang Kong's head but was soon pushed to the side. This wasn't the time to think about that. First, he had to focus on dealing with the current situation. If they managed to get into the playoffs, then it wouldn't be too late to resolve this issue then. Scene Killer ran like the hounds of hell were at his feet, charging right up the tower. He could clearly hear the sounds of cannon fire. Who knew how much range support Dancing Rain had been able to provide already? In addition, the entrance to the tower was clear in her view. Sumo Chung immediately saw Scene Killer when the other charged up. Then, despite there being no voice, Yang Kong felt like he could hear Sumo Chung giggling. Despite characters having no expression, he felt like he saw Dancing Rain flash him a smile. Without any hesitation, Dancing Rain jumped off the tower roof. Yang Kong didn't hesitate. He had been expecting this. He too jumped off the roof without hesitation. Diving arrow. Anti-tank missiles. Scene Killer stomped on Dancing Rain in mid-air, but, at the same time, he was struck close range by Dancing Rain's cannon fire. Light and fire exploded in the sky. Below, Happy and 301 degrees 8 were deep in battle and didn't have the time to pay any attention to it. They knew what was happening over there. In comparison, 301 degrees was naturally under more pressure. Without Yang Kong, their strategy lacked the most important aspect. They didn't have to use life-risking strike. But after demonstrating their success in using it these few times, Yang Kong's Scene Killer's presence in and of itself became a huge hindrance to their opponents. So long as he was here, then their opponents would have to keep a careful eye on his movements, on what he was planning to do. Team 301 degrees would expand on this to claim victory. The ultimate goal of the match was victory. Using life-risking strike was just a means to an end, but not the only means. It was just that this means had too large of an impact, making the opponents wary and making 301 degrees openings successful. However, this time, Yang Kong's Scene Killer wasn't even there, so Team 301 degrees couldn't use the strategy they had been using for the latter half of the season. The Reming 4 weren't performing so well against Happy right now. However, Bai Shu's performance in the team competition was more striking than his performance in 1v1s. Protecting his teammates, synchronizing with them, even charging at the forefront, no matter what, he performed excellently. It was clear that he had already become an integral part of this team. Unfortunately, a 301 degrees with only him had still lost its sharpest sword. They could stall and stand up against Happy, but they couldn't find a way to win. As for Happy's four, under the mix of offensive and defensive maneuvers performed by Yi Shu's Lord Grim and Fang Rui's Boundless Sea, Qiao Yifan's 1-inch ash set ghost boundary after ghost boundary. Ghost boundaries were inanimate, and players had life. A noob would probably think that ghost boundaries were easy to deal with. I'll just stay far, far away from it, then my opponent won't have any way to get to me. It wasn't that this was incorrect, but when a pro-level Phantom Demon started setting ghost boundaries, they were also weaving a tight web. If they wanted to struggle out of it, if they wanted to get through it, then just staying far away wouldn't be nearly enough, especially in a team competition. Ghost boundaries were inanimate, players had life, but these living players included a Phantom Demon's teammates. In a team competition, if you wanted to retreat, then you had to make sure that everyone on your side could retreat successfully. This clearly wasn't as simple as escaping on your own in a 1v1. In a team competition, Phantom Demons would cooperate with their teammates to capitalize on this. There was no need to trap everyone on the other side. Just trapping one person was equal to trapping everyone. After all, they couldn't just leave one of their teammates here to die. Not good. Seeing the ghost boundaries appear one after the other around them, 301 degrees players knew that things weren't looking up for them. They desperately need Yang Kong's support, but Yang Kong couldn't come over. What should they do? Here, a single word suddenly popped out in the chat. It was Bai Shu. Here. What's here? 301 degrees team members knew that it wasn't the time to ask, and all turned their gazes towards Bai Shu's tide. Night Spirit. Bai Shu's tide activated the Knight's Awakening skill and then bellowed, waving his sword and shield in the air. Sacrificial Roar. Bai Shu had finally gotten a chance where he'd be able to take control of all four of Happy's characters at once. He swiftly grasped this chance and then released this sacrificial roar, which just so happened to reach all four of Happy's members. He had waited a long time for such a chance. From the beginning, he had realized that Happy was on guard of his taunt skills and the occasional chants that appeared were all traps. As expected of Yi Shu. Bai Shu's opinion of Yi Shu had gone through a huge metamorphosis by now. Not only did the other have skill that not even he could rival, his team worked together like a well-oiled machine. However, Bai Shu believed that there would be an opportunity. No one could work flawlessly like a robot, so he waited patiently, endured patiently, observing the situation and preparing to grasp this opportunity. It had come. Under the effects of Sacrificial Roar, Happy's four all forcibly turned to attack him. However, Roar and Provoke were different. Provoke inflicted a taunt that had a time limit on a single target. Roar would affected everyone within range, but only lasted until the taunter was attacked once. For ranged fighters, it was easy to get rid of Roar's effect. All they had to do was attack the target once. It was more troublesome for melee fighters. If they were far away, then they would have to close in first, and the skills unleashed while not closed in would be judged by the system to see if they counted as attacking the taunter. Currently, it seemed that the system wasn't so easy to trick. It would make a judgment using the range of the attack to see if it posed a threat to the knight or not. Yi Zhu and Fang Rui both had ranged attacks, so within a second after Sacrificial Roar, Lord Grim and Boundless Sea immediately sent attacks at Tide and resolved the effect. Yet, even so, their original offensive was interrupted for a moment, allowing 301 degrees other three members to do as they pleased without hindrance for a moment. For Happy, the one most affected was Qiao Yivan. WuxRWorldAudio.com Ghost blades could use the power of the Phantom Ghost to execute attacks of a longer range than Blade Masters and other swordsmen. However, right now, he wasn't close enough to reach Tide with his attacks, so Qiao Yivan had no choice but to have 1-inch Ash rush out a Tide. Unfortunately, Bai Shu's main target was this ghost blade of his. He wanted to pull away, making it so that 1-inch Ash couldn't strike, and thus destroying his ghost charring technique. From this point of view, Raw's effect really was rather disgusting. If the opponent couldn't execute an effective attack, then the taunt would remain forever. However, it wouldn't be that easy to maintain this effect because Happy had two characters that could cleanse it. The Chi Master's Calm and Composed. The Cleric's Focus. These were both skills that could remove the taunt status, and Happy just so happened to have both classes. By now, if 301 Degrees players didn't think to support Bai Shu, then they might as well retire. The moment Sacrificial Raw was executed, Gao Ji immediately understood what Bai Shu was trying to do. Stellar Sword swung his white lightsaber, carving a brilliantly white sword light into the air and dashed towards Fang Rui's boundless sea, not giving him a chance to use Calm and Composed. Bai Shu, on the other hand, used Knight's Spirit to charge at and Wen Yi's little cold hands with a heroic charge. Li Yihui's grappler, Moving Mountains, charged towards Yi Shu's Lord Grim. Normally, an unspecialized wouldn't have any skills that could remove taunt, but Lord Grim's Myriad Manifestations umbrella could have a skill equipped to each form, so they had to be wary of the possibility. As expected, seeing Lord Grim's movements, 301 Degrees began to panic. His Myriad Manifestations umbrella had been folded into two parts, a tomba in each hand, his palms held towards each other, chi flowing. It was the Chi Master's Calm and Composed. Don't even think about it. Li Yihui was desperate. His grappler's attack range was absolutely appalling, and he most likely wouldn't make it in time. However, an ex-all-star level grappler player wouldn't give up so easily. Circle Sweep Kick. Li Yihui's Moving Mountains leaped into the air, shooting forwards. He seemed to grab for an opponent in mid-air with his legs, but there was no target within range. However, with this leap forward, he managed to catch up with 1-inch Ash's movement, blocking Lord Grim's target for Calm and Composed and making him unable to target 1-inch Ash. This was a small trick, but it was effective. Lord Grim's Calm and Composed failed in the end, and he used it on himself in order to not waste it. Li Yihui sighed in relief, yet that was when he saw Lord Grim's Tunfas reconnect and then, with a click, it turned into a scythe. A priest weapon. Li Yihui paled again. There were too many taunt removers for priest skills. The Cleric's Focus, the Knight's Immovable Mountain, the Exorcist's Calming Talisman, the Paladin's Purify. All four classes had a skill of this kind, and apart from the Knight's, which could only be used on oneself, the other three could all be used on other targets. After setting a Calm and Composed on his Myriad Manifestations umbrella, had Yi Shu then added a skill with a repeat effect. End chapter.
The King's Avatar, Chapter 1381. So it ends here. Audio source, wuxia-world-audiobook.com. Chapter 1381. So it ends here? Translator, Gnome Yummy. Editor, Gnome Yummy. It wasn't just Li Yihui. Bai Shu's expression turned heavy too. Adding on a skill with the same effect. It sounded wasteful, but to 301, it was their biggest bane. 301's strategies had been brought back by Bai Shu. He knew better than anyone else how it should be played, as well as all the tricks and techniques involved. In these strategies, the Knight was undoubtedly crucial. Provoke and Roar, the two taunt skills, were essential for letting the assassin complete a life-risking strike and were incredibly valuable for other tactics too. It could be said that these were the two most important skills for their strategies. These strategies weren't used in China's competitive scene. Bai Shu had confirmed it, and after 301 started using them, they became a force to be reckoned with. Their execution wasn't perfect yet, but 301 had already achieved great results. A major reason for their success was the alliance's unfamiliarity with these foreign tactics. However, Happy's Yi Shu had attached two skills with the same effect onto his weapon, most likely to target Tide's Provoke and Roar. It was enough to say that he had grasped the key points of this set of strategies. Luring away Yang Kong and his scene killer was only a part of Happy's setup. The other part was restricting the enemy knight's two taunt skills. With a Chi Master, a cleric, and who knew how many skills Lord Grimm had added onto his umbrella, Happy had numerous ways to achieve this goal. What a guy! He's even better than imagined. Bai Shu was shocked. Yi Shu had seen through his techniques, his thoughts, and even the strategies he had brought back from outside of the scene. The Glory textbook. Bai Shu had heard of this nickname. Now, he was convinced, truly convinced. Was there anything this guy didn't excel at? He was top tier at every aspect of Glory. And that weapon his character possessed, Bai Shu had never even heard of it before. The European scene obviously had self-made equipment, but to create one that could transform, wasn't that cheating? Wasn't that changing how the game was supposed to be played? Bai Shu had questioned it at one point, but now, he had nothing to say. For such a freakish weapon to appear in such a freakish player's hands, there was nothing he could say. Lord Grimm flickered, avoiding the flying circle sweep kick from Moving Mountain. The scythe form myriad manifestations umbrella arced in the air, drawing out a rising emblem, suspending Moving Mountain in the air. Instead of falling down, Moving Mountain shot into the air. Lord Grimm rushed forward, holding a talisman in his other hand, the Exorcist's meditation talisman, which could dispel taunt effects. No one could be faster than Lord Grimm, and no one could block him. Team 301's current team comp had a very obvious weakness: no ranged. Before 301's sixth player Qian Wenju came onto the stage, 301's starting team comp consisted of an assassin, a knight, a blade master, a grappler, and a paladin, all melee. An all-melee team was a viable team comp though, unlike all ranged team comps. Even though they would have some trouble against ranged attacks, all melee teams had the numbers advantage in melee brawls. This was the goal of all melee teams. Defense first, and then once an opportunity appeared to fight the opponent, melee characters jump at it and never let go. However, oftentimes, without a long-ranged class, they could meet situations where there was nothing they could do. For example, trying to interrupt a skill was exceptionally difficult. Lord Grimm was getting ready to attack, but without long-ranged firepower, they had no suitable ways of stopping him. Lord Grimm's meditation talisman was stuck onto 1-inch ash. The roar effect was finally dispelled. Chao Yifan immediately had 1-inch ash placed down a ghost boundary. The timing of the dispel was immaculate. The ghost boundary could continue to remain. At this moment, Bai Shu turned around and lifted his hands. Yi Shu's Lord Grimm made his way over to him in a single step. Bai Shu was shocked. With just one press of his finger, Tide would have let out a glorious provocation, but Lord Grimm stood in his way. This was the method that Li Yi had used to block Lord Grimm's calm and composed. Lord Grimm moved towards Tide, but was Yi Shu afraid? Tide had reached little cold hands. Even if Bai Shu hadn't provoked him, Yi Shu would have went over anyways to rescue their healer. Now, with the provoke, he didn't even need to press any buttons to move. He could focus solely on using skills as he rushed over. Bai Shu was helpless. Provoke and Roar had been used, and under Knight's Spirit, there might had even been buffed. However, the opponent had blocked them. Could he still escape? No tricks would work. His only choice was to brute force his way out. If it was just himself, he could have ran long ago, but the goal was to get the rest of the team to retreat too. 1-inch Ash's ghost boundary needed to be put under control. 301's objective hadn't changed. Just heroic leap. Tide jumped over Lord Grimm's head and smashed towards 1-inch Ash. Lord Grimm was still under Provoke's effects though. The system forced him to follow, so his reactions were perfect. Tide had quickly leapt over his head, but Lord Grimm instantly turned around. Yishu followed in his steps and also jumped. His myriad manifestations umbrella transformed into a spear, circle swing. Pooh! Tide was stabbed in midair. Baishu turned his head in disbelief. To be able to attack in this situation, what were his limits? Bang! Tide had been thrown to the ground by circle swing. The weight of a fully plated knight wasn't light. He formed a crater in the ground as the earth trembled. Baishu immediately had Tide get up, but his skills were locked. Happy's cleric had probably thrown down sacred fire when Lord Grimm threw out him, sealing his skills. In the blink of an eye, Chow Yifan completed a chain of ghost boundaries. He didn't need to trap all of 301, just a single character was enough. Unless their opponents were crippled, how could they not go rescue their ally? Gao Jia was unfortunately the one to be captured. He was wildly attacking to stop Fang Rui, but he didn't realize that it was actually him being locked down by Fang Rui. 1-inch Ash's ghost boundary chain linked together with him in the center of it. Gao Jia was dumbfounded. Then, he watched as the rest of Happy rushed over, each of them with sinister expressions. Not good. Team 301 could do nothing. They couldn't help but look towards the other side. Their team captain, Yang Kong and his scene killer, should be back by now. But, no. Yang Kong was currently fighting with Suma Chung, who was patiently kiting him. In short, she was doing one thing, stalling. Yang Kong completely understood Suma Chung's intentions, but he had no way of resolving the issue. WuxiaWorldAudio.com. In fact, he was hoping Baishu and the others could find a way to come over and group back up. If everyone locked Suma Chung outside of Polonia Tower, their tactics would be able to open up. How could he know that Happy had locked up the other four, stopping them from leaving? Both sides were hoping for one another to save them, but right now, neither side could help the other. In the end, the trapped Gao Jia was unable to be rescued. When Yang Kong saw Stellar Sword's name suddenly turn gray, his heart sunk. He knew that the other side had lost, and in the end, he wasn't able to get rid of Suma Chung and rush back to help. Despite knowing the other side's intentions, he could do nothing but be led around by the nose into a losing situation. Gao Jia had fallen. Who was next? Yang Kong clearly knew that the death of an ally was the most dangerous moment. The remaining players would instantly feel the pressure multiplied. Before their sixth player arrived, everyone would need to put in even greater effort to hold on in order to last while their side had a numbers disadvantage. If any teammate was unable to persist, the opponents would utilize their numbers advantage to quickly sweep everyone. I need to group back together with them. Yang Kong made his decision. Scene killer tossed Dancing Rain aside to return. Suma Chung continued to give chase with her Dancing Rain, but this time, Yang Kong's retreat was more decisive. When Dancing Rain entered Polonia Tower, he didn't even look back. In this live-or-die moment, tactics could only be thrown aside for now. To group up, even if they had Suma Chung above breaking their tactics, it could be considered as a method of intimidation. Afterwards they could go on the offensive. Either way, it was still better than letting Happy lead them around by the nose. Scene Killer finally grouped together with everyone, and 301's sixth player had quickly arrived as well. But it was too late. When Yang Kong got closer, he saw that Baishu's Tide no longer had much health left. At a numbers disadvantage, he had relied on his sturdy plate armor and his own body to protect the other two members. As a result, he took huge amounts of damage. Their healer, Sun Ming's Paladin 007 had been focused by the other side as well and could not provide any assistance. Yang Kong was only an assassin. He wasn't a healer. His return could help relieve some of Baishu's burden, but at this point, Happy was trading health for health. At this rate, Tide would certainly be killed. The night Tide was perhaps had the most health out of any knight in all of Glory, but in order to protect his team, he fell as well. Boom, boom, boom. Dancing Rain had climbed up the Polonia Tower, and was providing help. Yang Kong lifted his head and saw the dazzling yet harsh gunfire. We lost. Yang Kong knew that the fight was over. But was it the end of this match, or the end of their summer? How bitter. No matter what, losing would always make one feel bitter. I don't have many chances left. Reality was cruel. With this team competition, Happy beat 301, the final score 6-4. Team 301 would have to wait for the results of the two other matches before they could know their final fate. As for Happy, to think they didn't even let me play, or could it be a mark of how much we've improved? Tang Ru wrinkled her brow and complained. End chapter.
The King's Avatar, Chapter 1382. It's all over. Audio source, wushaworldaudiobook.com. Chapter 1382. It's all over. Translator, Nomyami. Editor, Nomyami. Happy and 301 Degrees match has come to an end. Happy won. In the live broadcast of Samsara and 100 Blossoms match, Pan Lin immediately announced the results of the other match once he received them. Happy won, huh? Li Yibo sighed, his tone filled with sorrow. Pan Lin didn't respond, and let out a sigh of relief as well, before focusing on the match again. Happy had won. Originally, this was great news for 100 Blossoms, but unfortunately, they hadn't managed to grasp their chance this time. In the team competition against Samsara, 100 Blossoms was clearly at a disadvantage. Currently, it was 5 against 4 on the field, with 100 Blossoms down one person. It looked like they weren't going to be able to defeat Samsara twice in the regular season after all. Would they have a chance to turn the tables? Pan Lin and Li Yibo both silently watched on. If there wasn't any miraculous save, then there was little need for them to commentate. How is Wind Howl's match going? Li Yibo suddenly asked. It's not over yet. Pan Lin was also, in fact, checking up on the other match every now and then. However, the only information he had gotten so far was that the match wasn't over yet, but no details. The match continued. With the fall of each 100 Blossoms character, the hope for a miracle dimmed a little more. Pan Lin sighed again. 100 Blossoms had done everything they could. Even in front of a powerhouse like Samsara, they maintained hope. Finally, they were able to gain 2 points in the group arena and overtake Wind Howl, grasping the initiative. But fate had once again played a cruel trick on them. They had gotten the initiative, but it had slipped out of their grasp again. Right now, all they could do was wait for the results of the Tiny Herb and Wind Howl match. But by the time Samsara and 100 Blossoms match ended, the results still hadn't come out. 6-4. To Samsara, this wasn't any spectacular victory, but the venue had exploded into a sea of cheers. The 38 rounds had finally came to an end. Samsara had obtained a total of 319 points. They had started in the lead and had never once been overtaken. Their entry into the playoffs had been guaranteed 4 rounds ago. However, out of respect, they didn't celebrate too much. But now, with all 38 rounds over, there was no need to hold back any longer, and this was Samsara's home stadium as well. They had long since prepared a celebration ceremony, and some hadn't even managed to wait until the end of the match to start. Team 100 Blossoms shook hands with Samsara's members amidst this joyful cacophony. Samsara's members were courteous enough to wait until after these procedures were over to wave their fists in celebration with the Samsara fans in venue. A celebration of 38 rounds of victory. We are the champions. This classic by Queens blared through the stadium speakers. The fans in the stadium all roared along with this line. This was a truth in the regular season and a beautiful blessing for their playoffs journey. Team 100 Blossoms left the stage disappointed, surrounded by this sort of atmosphere. No one would care much about the losers, and it wasn't the first time 100 Blossoms had been filled with disappointment in a celebratory situation. Their seniors had walked off the stage of the grand finals in disappointment like this thrice. Has it ended? The players that had just finished playing in the match didn't know the results of the other match. After asking, they found out that Tiny Herb and Windhowl's match was still ongoing. Is there any hope left? Everyone held hope, but this feeling, how they couldn't grasp this hope with their own two hands, was terrible. They felt like a grounded fish. They could do nothing but wait. What would it be? Their eyes held hope and anxiety, and a mess of similar emotions. All until the news came. "We're in," the person who obtained the news said. "Is that so?" Yufeng gave a long sigh and sat down on the player bench. The tension in him finally drained out. "We're in." Quote, "Some others still need confirmation." "Yes, we're in. We're in." Windhowl lost to Tiny Herb. "We're 1 point in the lead, we're in for the playoffs." The person who had got the news burst out in excitement. 100 Blossoms members looked at each other. Excitement? Delight. They didn't seem to be feeling any of that. After all that had occurred, all they felt was a sense of relief, like they had managed to escape death. In the yet unfinished live broadcast, Pan Lin and Li Yibo had naturally also received the news. "I didn't think there would be such a dramatic ending to all this," Pan Lin commented. "Yeah, in the last team competition, the 3 teams that need to win didn't manage to win any of them. Thus the points remain unchanged." Li Yibo said. "We can't really say it's completely unchanged." Pan Lin laughed. 1 round ago, Windhowl sat at 8th and 100 Blossoms was at 9th. However, 100 Blossoms gained 4 points this round, overtaking Windhowl and squeezing into the top 8. Unfortunately, Team Windhowl wasn't able to enter the playoffs. Li Yibo lamented. "But they're still young. They can try again next year," Pan Lin said. Thus, the regular season ended just like that. Tiny Herb's stadium wasn't as lively as Simsara's. After all, for Tiny Herb, they had merely finished a match that had little to no effect whatsoever on their points. There was no need to celebrate getting into the playoffs either. They acted like this was all a very normal match, with an applause given to the 2 teams. However, under the applause stood the most disappointed team of the round. They lost. It was over. In the moment the match ended, Windhowl knew that this would be the result. They were the ones who need to win this round. The team that wouldn't have any chance whatsoever if they didn't win. However, in the end, they lost. Especially knowing that 301 Degrees and 100 Blossoms had both lost, Windhowl were even more frustrated. A chance had appeared, but unfortunately they weren't able to make use of it. With round 38 of the regular season, Team Windhowl's journey FPR Season 10 had come to an end. They weren't able to get into the playoffs, and, for a team that had set its goal as the championships, this was a complete failure. They had never expected that their summer would end so soon. They didn't know what they would do next. Everyone felt lost, and silently left the stadium just like that. A season of hard work, a season of their efforts, all dispersed in the wind. The results of the matches of round 38 were out one after the other. WashOurWorldAudio.com. This would decide the team's final rankings and also the team's first opponents in the playoffs. The live broadcast still hadn't ended. It was waiting for this moment, the moment the final match results came out. Pan Lin and Li Yibo swiftly organized the materials at hand, giving a simple report on this season's final results. Team Samsara was the regular season champions at 319 points. After them was Tyranny in second with 278 points. They weren't as impressive as last season, and even began the season under doubt from all sides. However, after 38 rounds, they had silently managed to climb over the other teams into second place. Blue Rain was third, just a point away from Tyranny. They had switched places several times with Tyranny, and in the last round had ended things with a 1-point disadvantage. Team Tiny Herb was at 270 points, placed fourth. Fifth was Thunderclap with 254 points, then it was Happy, 301 degrees, and 100 Blossoms, whose places were only confirmed with the last round. Team Wind Howl, unfortunately, falling short by just 1 point. Void was 10th and Misty Rain was 11th. After that, it was Miracle, Royal Style, Parade, Heavenly Swords, Lightly, Conquering Clouds and Radiant. Great Green and Seaside were the only two teams of the season whose points didn't manage to reach the hundreds, and they were both relegated. It's over. For the teams not in the top 8, Season 10 was done. As for the top 8, they would enter the final war of the season. Considering the matchups the Alliance had always used, everyone could draw the matchup situation of the playoffs from the rankings. The ranked first Samsara will be up against 100 Blossoms in the first match of the playoffs. Pan Lin announced the first set of opponents. The teams have just finished playing around against one another, and now they're going to fight 2 more rounds in the playoffs, or maybe even 3. Li Yibo pointed out. Then it's Tyranny versus 301 degrees, Blue Rain against Happy, Tiny Herb against Thunderclap, Pan Lin continued. Yup. And then the winner of Samsara and 100 Blossoms will fight whoever wins between Tiny Herb and Thunderclap. While the victor of Tyranny versus 301 degrees will go up against whoever wins between Happy and Blue Rain. Then the winners of these 2 battles will go up against one another in the grand finals. Li Yibo announced the rest of the matchups for the playoffs. Coach Lee, can you give a prediction of how the playoffs might go? Pan Lin asked. The results are hard to say. In the playoffs, what's gained from the regular season loses its value, especially with the new rules in place. This makes it even harder to predict from the results of the regular season. For example, for Team Tyranny, they were a subject of doubt in the regular season, but now everyone's realized that they were saving up strength for the playoffs. Under these circumstances, it's hard to say how well Tyranny will perform in the playoffs. Li Yibo replied. Then what about Team Happy? What do you think of them, Advisor Lee? This team managed to enter the playoffs as a new team. This is something that has never happened before. Where do you think they'll be able to get to, Advisor Lee? Pan Lin inquired. Li Yibo could feel his insides clench. Happy was a team he didn't dare make predictions about. Happy. Well, they might count as a new team, but this new bottle holds old wine. Yishu, Sumuchung, Fang Rui, just the 3 of them alone have plenty of playoffs experience, comparable or even more than the other 7 teams. Apart from that, it's all rookies. Such a conflicting team composition has never been seen before. I'm eager to see how they'll perform, as well. Li Yibo said. Happy's just finished their post-match press conference. The reports asked about the playoffs, and guess how Yishu replied? How? Li Yibo asked. He said, now that they've gotten here, he won't be thrown off again. Pan Lin said, let's hope that's true. Li Yibo laughed, and